You know that moment when somebody does something, they say something, and it's just so unfair that it just wrecks your entire day and sends your emotions all over place. Well, that was me. I was so angry over what was happened, but then I caught myself, and what happened next completely changed my approach to anger and how I handled it. And I want to share you the 3 steps that I discovered and that I used to kind of let go so that you can use them when someone ruins your day, and so you can walk more into freedom and into peace. Hey, welcome to my channel, A Little Nudge. My name is Derek, and for the last 3 decades I've been helping people explore faith and deepen their faith. And in these videos I'm just giving you little nudges, little tools that'll help you live a deeper and a more meaningful life. I see the email and I can't believe what I'm reading. I'm buying a house and my agent has tripled the cost. And I'm just so angry that he's done that on me. And I think about what to do, and then I have an idea. I said, I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to threaten to pull out. So I send back this angry email saying I'm going to pull out if he doesn't go back to the original quote, knowing that that's going to force him to respond. And he replies saying, oh, well, that would be a shame if you pulled out, but I understand. Let me know what you decide to do. And I was trapped in a corner because if I did pull out, so I didn't have to pay triple the cost and I went with someone else, actually my overall cost would be higher than if I just stuck with him. And so I knew that the best thing for me to do would be just to stick with it. But it really grated, and I didn't want to let him get away with it. And I thought about it, and I was like just so stressed and so angry. And in the end, I was like, and I really just wanted to pull out to punish him and get at him. And then I realized actually I'm the one who would lose most. And so eventually I just settled down and I thought, actually, I just need to let it go. The best thing I can do is just to go with it. The cheapest option for me right now, in terms of where I'm at, is just to let it go. It'd been a bit of a rough ride, but yeah, I accepted it, and I accepted the triple cost because that was cheaper overall rather than angrily just pulling out. And I got on with the rest of my day. And then later on in the afternoon, I'm working away and suddenly I stop typing because I'm thinking about how he got away with it, how that like tripled cost. And even though I'd agreed with it, and even though it was the best thing, it was just like, I got really annoyed by it. And I started thinking about other options and thinking about how I could get my own back. And then I suddenly had this insight, this moment that come to me. And I'd already accepted to pay triple the cost. But now by kind of going over it, I was paying like this extra cost of extra stress in my life. I was like, because I hadn't let it go and I was returning to the scene of the crime, as it were, I was like ruining my afternoon when I'd already ruined my morning. But this time the cost was coming because I was letting it back into my life. It was like within my control. I could stop paying that cost of ruining my afternoon if I just decided to let it go. And we do this all the time, and emotionally it feels right, but logically it doesn't make any sense. That something happens to us, someone hurts us, maybe they say something, or there's a circumstance that just didn't feel right, or that opportunity or job just didn't really go our way. And we maybe process it and deal with it at the time. We decide, am I going to say something? Am I going to do something? And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. But we make our response in the moment, or in that the day or week where we're wrestling with it, and that costs us. But then weeks, months, sometimes years later, we're paying this second cost where we haven't really let it go and we're just stewing it over inside us. We talk to people about it, that when we're walking along the road or quietly at night, we start to just ruminate over it, and it just gets bigger, and we nurse that hurt and we caress that bruise on that pain, and we just get angry, and that bitterness just grows inside us, just like I did with that agent, that it'd been dealt with, but then in the afternoon, I started to pay this second cost where it was just ruining my day. And it had already stolen my money, but now it was stealing my time and my happiness and joy. Fortunately, I caught it in time, so it only affected an extra afternoon, and I had 3 steps that I go through when I've got this kind of anger, or when I get trapped. I have 3 steps that I go through. But for some of us, it can be like 6 months later, and we're still thinking about something that's happened in the past. We're still nurturing that hurt or that bitterness, and it's just, how much does that cost us? doesn't cost the person anything, but it costs us so much joy. It costs us relationships and happiness. And there's a story that I love about two monks who are going on this journey, and they get to this wide rushing river, and they realize they're going to have to walk through it and their robes are going to get wet, but it's quite a warm day, so they realize they'll get on the other side and hopefully it will dry. And then they notice, as they're deciding to cross, that this beautiful woman comes up alongside them, and she's in this beautiful outfit, and she clearly doesn't want to get wet. And so she asks one of the monks if they would carry her across. So the monk agrees to it, and he touches her, holds her, and carries her across the other side. And then he puts her down and bids her farewell, and the two monks continue on the journey. But there's an air of tension and stress between them. And the monk who's carried the woman eventually turns to the other and says, "What's wrong? Since we left the river, you've been short with me and sharp and irritable." And the other monk says, "Listen, in our order, it's forbidden for us to touch a woman. And you've touched not just any woman, but a young woman, a young, beautiful woman. And that's against what we should be doing." And the monk who carried the woman turns to him and said, "Listen, I put that woman down at the other side of that river. Why are you still carrying her?" And we have this idea that many of us just keep carrying stuff, where really, if we just put it down at the side of the river, if we can just learn to let go, we can walk in freedom. And the original incident is not within our control. The thing that someone said, the thing that's happened, the opportunity that didn't go our way, all that stuff happened to us wasn't within our control. It might not be our fault. It could be somebody else, accidental, deliberate, or whatever it might be. But carrying it ongoing actually is our fault. That actually is within our control. The level of stress or joy or peace or happiness is completely within our control. That afternoon when I was wound up by the agent, I wasn't in control that I got trapped and I had to pay 3 times the cost. But the afternoon and just having it dominated by stress and anxiety and anger and bitterness, actually that was within my control. I love a verse in Hebrews 12, verse 1, and it's always really challenging to me when I read it. And this is what it says. It says, "Let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race God has set before us." Let's strip off every weight, every burden that's just slowing us down, sin and the thoughts that are tripping us up, so we can run with endurance the race God's got for us. Life and the adventure and the things that He set for us. Let's get rid of the things that we weigh us down, the bitterness and the anger and the rage and the things that are trapping us. Let's get rid of that so we can run and walk the journey and race that God's got for us. Really, really simple example. Let's just imagine you've been driving on the way home and somebody cuts you up at a roundabout and nearly clipped your car, but didn't quite, and then they drive on and you're really annoyed about it. The incident is finished now, and you could just let that go, or you could think about it. You could get home and tell your partner about it. You could tell a friend about it the next day. You could have that journey home in a state of rage and anger, or you could just let go of what is weighing you down. I wonder what it is that you're carrying that you need to put down. Now, I've found that it's actually quite hard to let go, and I'll try and let go, but the thing will come back to me, and my mind won't always do what I tell it to do, to forget about that and not think about it. And so I've come up with this kind of 3-step process that I go through whenever I need to kind of let go of something that I'm struggling with and that it's entangling and that's trapping me. And I'm going to just share it with you. Before I do, if you are liking this video, then please subscribe and hit the like bell and add comments afterwards. I'd love to hear what you think of it, and it really helps to support the channel. But here's the 3 steps that I kind of walk through when my mind's not willing to do what I tell it to do. And the first thing that I do is just acknowledge the pain. So I neutrally and just accurately just name what's happened, what's going on, and how I'm feeling about it. And I try to keep this as factual rather than as loaded as possible. So I might be like, I got that email from the agent and I'm feeling really annoyed because the price has gone up 3 times. And that's quite a simple example, but just kind of naming it is step 1 and bringing to the surface. Sometimes if you've been at work or in a meeting and you've been slighted, that takes a bit more difficulty today. Actually, I'm feeling really irritated with my colleague because when he reported back on the project, he didn't mention my name. And if I'm honest, that's really annoyed me inside. So acknowledge the pain and name what it is. The second thing to do is to identify the trigger and the cause. Like, why has this bothered me? Because it wouldn't bother everyone. Some people would not have been bothered by not being mentioned in your colleague's presentation. Some people, a car misses them on a roundabout, are relieved. They're not really that bothered. Some people are like, oh yeah, there's a misunderstanding of cost. It's a bit annoying, but they won't think about it again. And so why is it that it bothered me? And it's to identify the trigger. And often it'll be a wound. It'll be some deep-seated insecurity. If I'm honest with the agent, the thing that why it really bothered me is I like a sense of fairness, and I don't like people to get one up on me. I don't like people to take advantage of me. I'm quite competitive. I like to win, and I don't like to feel that I've lost. I don't like to feel that things are out of control. I like things to be in my control and for everything to go as I want it to be, which means that that's a trigger for anger and all sorts of things. But what's the thing that you're carrying? What is it? Why it bothered you? Why can't you just let it go? Other people might have. And again, it's not about judging ourselves, but just naming it, just saying, actually, that's how it is. That's kind of what's inside me. And so we name the situation, what's happened. We name what the trigger is within us. And that's like really important just to bring it out, because actually what you find is that once you start to do that already, the healing and the letting go will start. That I've found the less we hide, the more that we heal. It's when things are buried that they get powerful, but when we bring them into the light, it gets much easier. And so already by the time you've done these 2 steps, you might find it a bit easier and ready for the last step, which is we choose to let go. Once we name them, we choose to let it go. And now you might want to use this as a prayer. You might want to use your imagination. Maybe sometimes I imagine like a balloon, like a kid's balloon you're holding on to. And I'm just going to let this go. Acknowledge what's happened, acknowledge the wound it's triggered in me, but I'm not going to hang on to it. I'm going to choose to let it go. And sometimes you need to return to this. You might want to pray and ask God to help you. You might want to use that verse from Hebrews 12:1. I don't want to let this to slow me down. I don't want this to trip me up and entangle me. I want to be free to live the life God's called me to be. And so I just choose to let go. And a few years ago, I had this deep damage in impact from a colleague that I used to work with. And if you're struggling really with letting go of something somebody's done to you, then you might find this video helpful next, when I just talk through how somebody poisoned my heart and how I was carrying that for a while and how I eventually learned to let go. And if that's something that's still wrestling with, then you might want to check out this video next. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.